Hi everybody, so thanks for joining us. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. This session is being recorded, just for your information, and please put any questions that you've got in the chat box. And there is a Q&A session at the end of the session today, and the panel will do its best to answer. And any questions that we can't answer, there'll be some email addresses so that you can speak to any of the organisations. So hello, thanks for joining us today. My name's Susan Cataldi. I'm from CLH West, which is the community-led housing hub in the west of England. And so as part of the Bristol Housing Festival, we're programming a month long of all things community-led housing. So it's with my pleasure, I'd like to introduce this fantastic session on self-finish with our partners Ecomotive and Bristol CLT. And I'll hand over to Rhiannon.
Thanks, Suze. Hi, everyone. So my name is Rhiannon Martinson, and I am representing Bristol Community Land Trust and Community-Led Homes West. I'm just going to give you a very brief introduction into Bristol CLT and their involvement with the Shaldon Road project. I've got a few slides I'm going to share, and then I'll hand over to Michelle and Jackson from Ecomotive. So, very brief introduction to the Shaldon Road project. Bristol CLT have partnered with Brighter Places on this project. Bristol CLT was founded in 2011 by a group of activists across the city seeking to address the housing crisis through empowering communities to deliver their own solutions. With the support of Bristol City Council, they acquired a piece of land and set about working with Bristol CLT members to design a scheme that met their needs. They delivered a scheme of, 12 homes. I'm trying to work out how I now click to the next slide, and I can't. It's not letting me click to my next slide, embarrassingly. So.
Rhiannon, you could try going out of the full screen mode on the PowerPoint.
Good plan, Michelle. Share from the actual PowerPoint. How's that? If I go into slideshow from there, does that work?
No, it looks, oh yeah. Yeah, now we can see.
So I'm just tinkering with my slides as we go. So I'll just keep it like that if that's okay, because I can't now hit the button. There we go. This is Fishponds Road. This is what came out of those consultations with our members working on that project. We delivered 12 homes that were a mix of 1 and 3 bedroom homes. The whole scheme is affordable with a mix of shared ownership and rental. One of the big desires of BCLT membership was to be part of the delivery of the homes, and that's how we came about working on a self-finish model. So residents contributed to the completion of their homes. They received training and support through their self-finish manager, who was Jackson, and the work was rewarded, as Jackson will touch on later, with an increased equity on the homes or a reduced rent. So here are the guys after they moved in, after the grueling self-finish process, looking very happy to have the keys and moving into their homes. So with all of that happening in the background, Bristol City Council approached BCLT again with another slice of land, which they'd identified as being prime for delivering sustainable custom build development in the city. So BCLT partnered with Brighter Places again. Now it was then the United Communities and put a bid into the land, and they won it. Here are some pictures of what it's looking like now. It was a challenging site due to the topography, access, many other things. You can't really see from this picture, but it's on a real slope and not much of a way of getting in. That was in 2013 that the land became available to us, and we're now quite a few years down the line. It's been a long journey, and we've had a lot of BCLT members involved through that process. One thing that was a part of the original vision was to have some self-build homes on the site, but that changed over the time following various complications. and instead we've adopted the self-finish model for the whole of the scheme. There are the pictures of the scheme, looking beautiful, and we'll see a bit more of that later. And then just a little slice of all of the partners that help to pull this scheme together. That's it for me. I'm going to hand to Jackson, I think, to talk us through all of the really exciting stuff about how self-finish really works. So thanks for having me, and I can't wait to see this next bit.
Right, thanks, Rhiannon. That's great hearing the intro. I hope noise is going to be all right. We are on a building site, so there's quite a lot of stuff going on around us. Let me know if there's too much background noise, and I'll try and close the doors or tell everyone else outside to quieten down a bit. Luckily, the workers in the cabin have just left, so I thought they might have still been in here. Okay, great. So yeah, my name is Jackson, and Michelle is there also with us. You can see. And we're just going to do a whistle-stop tour of what we've done so far in relation to self-finish, and then show you some images of the training, what we've been up to, and we will, I think we're just getting the slides going. There's sometimes there's the arrows at the bottom of the screen, but I can't actually see that. Michelle's working on moving the slides for me. So just because where we are now, we've got a small network, so we're slightly worried that the signal might drop out. So we've got, as Rhiannon said, there's 50 homes on the site, and it came about, the self-finish aspect, as a sort of follow-on from the project that Rhiannon just showed you, the Fish Pond site, which was 12 homes. And because of the benefits that the residents seem to get, the journey they went through from all the sort of hard work and the commitment to working on their homes, coming out the other end, I guess it's a little bit like a marathon. It's how much you enjoy it while you're doing it is questionable. It's quite hard work, but when you come out, there's that incredible sense of achievement. And that sense of collective, I guess, a collective achievement, and that personal, the personal uplift in your skills and your understanding of the home that you live in. On the Fish Ponds project, there was a mix of rental and shared ownership, and the same is on the project on Shaldon Road, where there's out of the 50 homes, it's about 50-50 between shared ownership and affordable rental. They're all affordable homes. They're all built to a very high ecological standard. So it's really great that even all the rental residents have a real sense of belonging, that home is actually theirs because they've put so much effort and time into creating stuff. There's a few sort of slides from the Fish Ponds project. That was the launch day. This is some of our self-finish activities, and you can see how much fun they were having. And that's one of the group shots. So there's a much smaller number of people on the Fish Ponds. Can we go back to that last one? Yeah. Michelle, you're on mute. So yeah. So that. So this was one of the residents, Sue, for the Fish Ponds project, and you can see the pleasure in her face as she's drilling her first hole that she made in her kitchen carcass for some of the plumbing for her sink. And actually, Sue went on to become one of the board members of the Bristol Community Land Trust after being involved in this project. And so it really felt like there are a number of big challenges that need to be addressed. And some of these things that have sort of pushed the whole community-led housing programme. Lots of people don't want to live in a volume house builder's home. We've got to address climate change. We've got COP26 very soon to start talking about how we can do that. And lots of people want to be involved in creating their own home. So that has been part of the narrative to driving what we've got for Shaldon Road. So Rhiannon's already shared a lovely picture of that, but that's the site, aerial view of the site. And this was just the number of organisations that are coming together for it. That's one of the artist's impressions of the site. You can almost see a bit of the hill. So we're looking from the north, looking south, down through the site. You can if you can see in the middle of the site, it's quite hard to see in this photo, but there's a sort of lower building, a sort of slightly brown building. And that's the space where the common or the community space will be. It was destined to be a common house. It's going to be effectively run and organised by the residents for that site. And it's currently where our welfare and cabins are for where the project is being coordinated from. So next slide, please. Thank you. So we've had a long build up to this project. As Rhiannon said, there's lots of residents that have been involved, have been Community Land Trust members, have been involved for a long time. Some have been part of the project for the last 6-7 years. And this is one of our first sessions where we had, well, we've had a number of sessions, but this is one of our first proper interactive session where we looked over the logistics of doing the self-finish with the residents. And so that was mainly around how we set out all the priorities of the self-finish, which we'll go into. So we don't need to... Okay, so this is the aerial view again from the site, but you can see that there are a number of different coloured blobs on that, and each of those coloured blobs is effectively a phase of the project. The phases have shifted around in terms of which one has come on first, but the green one has been our first phase, and that's the one that we've had so far, and we've been working on. A couple of weeks ago, the second phase, which is the large sort of blue one at the top of the site, bluey purple, that's come on as well, but we're still working on the first phase. And then shortly next week, actually, I think we're going to be handed over the yellow phase as well. So we're going to be ramping up to doing lots of houses at the same time. So what is expected, not of you guys, but what is expected of the residents? So this is one of the workshops that we ran through with them. So it was important that the residents communicate with us effectively. There's lots that needs to happen. We would like that they need to be able to come at allotted timescales. Now, this has been quite a tricky thing for them, because a lot of them have been trying to book time off work, and then the project has been delayed by various things, and so the phase handover has been delayed. That's pushed us back to pushed it back, and then people have had to hold on, and then they've rebooked, and then things are pushed back. So the time scale for the project has been quite tricky for the residents, and also for the main client, which is Brighter Places. So Brighter Places is the housing association that has taken on the overall project in terms of working, in terms of the homes, and in managing the main contractor that's building the homes on behalf of the self-finishers until they do their bit. So we wanted the residents to aim for around 2 days a week per house, though it works out to actually 1 day per week per house. So it's 35 days of internal works per property that's required to be to be part of the project. They also all needed to undertake various health and safety training that we've been providing. We wanted them all to be site aware of the risks associated with being on a large construction site, even though the parts of the site that we end up working in aren't effectively a construction site. Those houses have been signed off. So the risks associated to being on those parts of the site are less. But because the residents would need to make their way on bits of the site where the main contractor is working, we wanted them to be fully aware of all the risks. So we provided and supported the residents to undertake CSCS training, which is often mandated on larger construction sites. Then obviously we wanted them to attend other relevant training, such as tools training, so they can be aware of the risks associated with certain tools. Also other bits training that we'll run through in a moment. We also, it's really important that people turn up on time, because they need to work in groups. the project isn't set up that they all come in and just work on their own homes. The project is set up that they work in teams to upskill in a particular area that they can then effectively work across the project. And so the speed of their delivery increases because they become more skilled at that particular work area. And so it's important that the residents turn up on time so they can meet up with others. And obviously to take responsibility of their own home and the phase that they're in, but also the whole site. So the whole site is the responsibility of all the residents. It's shifting their mindset away from which is my home and how can I get my own home delivered. Okay, next slide, please. So what might the residents' time input look like? So they've got 35 days of internal works. There's a number of days associated with external works. And we've set it out in work slots, which are 8:30 to 12:30, and then 1 till 5, and then an evening slot. We've also got a fourth slot that's not on there, which is 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock for people who might need to drop kids off at school in the morning or pick kids up. So might need to leave at like 3 or to go and get kids. So we wanted to make it as accessible as possible for people to find which slots that they can work in. But we did keep it into those allocated slots. So there are a number of rules to being on the site, and these are fairly generic rules. Things like, you do not use any tool that you're not competent or you haven't been signed off to use on site. Obviously follow the health and safety guidance and procedures relating to the site, and obviously to behave respectfully to each other and other people on site. So we've set out some fairly simple overarching rules. Obviously, meeting the health and safety guidance requires them to wear steel toe cap boots and wear high vis and other things, and then the other personal protective equipment will be relative to the particular job that they are working on. Okay, next slide. So the jobs they will be undertaking is fitting kitchens. Next slide. Bathroom, shower and kitchen tiling, as well as not wet rooms, but WC, so above the sinks. Decorating, next slide. Architraves and skirting. Next slide, please. And then there's a whole bunch of other things which are helping to coordinate, looking after the welfare space and the toilets, putting the mirrors on, which kind of goes hand in hand with the sort of tiling team. Lots of them want to put their own floors in, which is fine, but it's not included in the sweat equity calculations. And lots of people want to put shelving and those sort of things, and they can put the shelving in once they move in later. Some of them, residents are putting flooring in during the sweat equity period, even though they don't get the sweat equity. So then it's ready for the skirting to go down on top of the flooring that's put in. Then the externals include the bin stores, the bike stores, laying turf and planting trees and shrubs. And we will be laying some turf fairly soon in the next couple of weeks before the end of the first phase. So we've done a very strong part of this, or a very important part of this, is getting everyone up to speed with some things which are, could be considered common sense to some people, or just understanding the basics and the rules of certain things. So we did working at height, we did manual handling, we've looked at COSH, so controlled substances hazardous to health, so make sure people can, there's not going to be any dangers associated to those. We've done training on use of tools. Lots of people haven't picked up a drill or a driver before. We've done tile training, so showing people how to fit the tiles to the wall, but also grouting and how to set out and measuring up. That's some of the important parts of the tiling process. Hold on a sec, you're zooming very quickly, Michelle. The skirting and architrave, even though there's certain aspects associated to that which include some of the sort of bigger machinery, which is important, such as like the miter saws. So the residents being able to know, where you put your hands and where you don't put your hands, how you clamp down the materials, and then obviously how to do the job itself. So there's understanding the tool in detail, understanding how to reduce hazards to yourself and to others around you, but then how to actually do the job. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, that's in the next one again. And there's Hong and Knock doing a cut, prepping for skirting, and another one, please. So they're using a jigsaw, using a skill saw. So we did all this training off-site at a different site, which I think was really beneficial to the residents. Remember, we've got about 75 residents, so it was quite a process to get lots of them through and getting them. So we focused the training relative to the area of the work that they wanted to work in. So we didn't have to teach everyone to use a jigsaw, just the teams that are going to be doing the carpentry works or maybe the kitchen works. Training on fitting worktops, even lots of carpenters shimmy away from doing worktops, but we did training on that, and we've had residents fitting tops on the site, and that's been a really good part of it. I think there's really good learning curve there for people to take on using a router, learning to use a kitchen mitre jig, and then obviously using it in a safe way as well. Pin gun is another obviously very dangerous tool, and we want to do obviously lots of training around that, making sure people knew the aspects to that. And training around fire marshal training. And next slide, can we put the fire out? So that's good. So there's a whole bunch of them. So we've on the a key part of this, because it's a big site, there's lots of residents. What we really wanted to be able to do is be able to capture the time where people are working and associate that time to a particular plot, so we could track how long it was taking for different work areas. So I'm just going to, if we could jump, if you could let me share the screen, Michelle, for a second. I'm not sure if that's possible. Maybe you need to cancel your screen sharing, and I'll just okay, can you see this? I hope you can. I can't hear anybody, so I'll assume you can. So this is our login page for the time tracker that all the residents have a login to. So they would log in like this, and once on site, I was a bit slower because I think we've got the so I'm using the bandwidth for the talk. Okay, so we go into here. So when the residents come to site, they can click that they are on site, and when they leave site, they can say they're off site. They can then put information in, so they can choose which work area they're in. So they can choose the plot they're working in. They can choose their plot number. So they're working in plot 3. They can choose the activity like decorating. But this they do at the end of the day, end of their shift. So they put their details in. And what it allows us to do, if I go to project overview, and if it can load up, we get to see, so this is the phase 1, plots 1 to 8. We've had phase 2 handed over, which is plot 17 to 27. And you can see actually some work has started in here. And we can also zoom in, so we can look at phase 1 and see how the work is spread out. And we've allocated time associated to the budget that was provided or would have been used if the contractors had done the equivalent work. So we would expect that the first phase is going to take longer than planned because all the residents are skilling up. And we've also been doing training sessions where we might have maybe 8 people present who are then watching maybe some tiling happening. So they all track their time, but not much work has actually been achieved during that training session. We can also split it up against particular areas. So we can look at decorating specifically, or we can look at fitting kitchens, or again, like worktops. And we know some worktops have happened and some haven't in phase 1. We can also look at total hours. So if we look at all of the phases and we go back to all activities, we can see how much work each householder has put in. So we can see some people have been on site lots, such as plot 8 and plot 23. The residents of these plots have been around lots. We can also see that some people haven't started yet on site. So, but because you can see across all 50 homes, so person from plot 46 has been on site and has done lots of work, even though their plot won't come online till later in the year. So they've been doing lots of work in plot 1. So this has been really great, allowing us to follow up. And also the other important part of what's here is we can see who's on site, and we can go through, we can find out. So we can go to Steve and we can see very quickly whether he's a first aider. If we need a first aider on site, we can see down the sides who the first aiders, if we need to get hold of them as well. So if there's an accident, then it enables quite quick contact with people. So I'm going to jump out of that and come back to the main screen. Michelle, if you could go back to that. And then, okay, so how are we doing for time? Okay, so that's good. So then we managed to come to site. So we've done lots of training. We're still going to be doing some more training on site as other people coming on board, or we need to do a bit more refining work, and actually doing training in situ with the real houses makes lots more sense, because you're in the place where that work needs to happen. So this is one of our work sessions where we're setting up the welfare space. Next slide, please. And we started cleaning up the cabins that Brighter Places got hold of on behalf of the residents. So we've got an office and a tools cabin, which we're in now. We've also got a sort of tea making area and a locker room. And we've also got the toilet block, which looked pretty grim when we got them, but the residents have cleaned them up, and they've been painted a neutral color, ready for there's talk about doing a big mural and colors. So next slide, please. We also did tower training. We don't particularly need to have towers inside the properties, but we do need to have stair towers, because in some of the stairwells it's quite a high space. But to do stairwell tower training, we had to put some of the residents through normal tower training to get the stairwell tower training. Part of the process before we got on site is residents got to choose what materials they wanted. And if they didn't want the particular materials that were on offer, they could get the budget that was allocated for those materials, and they could use that budget to go and get their own choice of materials. So on here, you can see some values, and they're there for plots where someone has opted out and they're going to use that budget to get their own. And so once the choices have been made, that means that the main contractor can organise the delivery of those materials to the plots before the phase gets handed over. And so on each phase, they get passed. We get to check off if all those materials, the right materials, have been handed in, and that's been quite an adventure. Working through, whether someone's got the right doors for their kitchens, or the right tiles, or the right grout, or maybe it's been put in a different plot. So that's been quite fun process trying to unpick that. Next slide. We've got a residence program schedule that allows the residents to put the days that they're going to be on site, or the sessions, and it allows them to ensure that there'll be at least there's no lone working. So it allows them to see how many other people are going to be on site on that particular day. So you can see on today of this session, so we're the 10 till 2 p.m. session, and some people might be on the 12:30 to 4:30 session, but we can see there's going to be between 6 and 9 people on site. And we can also see who are if there are any champions in particular work area. So the champions are people who have shown particular dexterity or skill in a particular area, and they've shown that they can work well at it, and it means that others can work with them or come and ask them questions. And so, if someone's a bit nervous about doing some tiling, but that's the role they've taken on, they can make sure they can try and come on a day when someone who's stated as a champion in that area is also going to be on site. Then we've also got our self-finished phase plan that allows that we get the dates provided to us of when the main contractor is going to have a particular phase completed. We can then put this into this spreadsheet that allows us to understand the overlap of the phases and the potential impact on how many residents need to be on site at a particular time to get the amount of work done. So this has been a constantly moving spreadsheet, and we can see actually now weeks 13, well, weeks 13 is going to be particularly busy because we've got 4 phases all on site at the same time. Then we can see that there's the 3 phases are going to be working before then the last 2 phases come on. The last phase is 5A and 5B, so sometimes that's called one phase. So, okay, thanks. Next slide. And then we've also been doing little snapshots of works so we can see which bits of work still need to be done. It's been quite complicated or confusing sometimes for residents to come in and get to work out what work they need to do. So if you're a decorator, you can come in and you can look at this. You can see actually there's decorating that still needs to happen in plot 1, and well, there's decorating needs to happen in all of them, but you can see which ones need more input to get completed. Okay, last few shots and then we'll do a walk around. So this is actual fitting one of the worktops in one of the houses. So we did this real life training and doing a cutting the real thing. So that was a good session for residents to see how it's done. Next slide. Residents doing some decorating and working in small teams. Next slide, please. Some tiling happening, happy tilers, and you see what amazing job they've been doing there. You can see they're just getting to complicate a bit where the pipe's coming out the wall for the shower. Next slide, please. And a little bit more tiling and some kitchen fitting. Next slide. Oh yeah, then we had the welfare space put in one part of the site for the duration because the main slab in the middle for where it was going to be wasn't ready. And then a few weeks ago, we got them moved across, and you can see how well one of the residents has been doing in moving that container across. she didn't actually move the container across, but the crane driver allowed her to sit in the crane, which she's very pleased about. Okay, and then that's enough of the slides, and we will do a walk around. So I'm going to just see if I can shift to my phone. And so I don't have to take the laptop. So Rhiannon, you might need to let me in on. So I'll log out. Oh. I'll start. Hold on.
Hopefully you'll be able to come back in nice and smoothly, Jackson. That's what we're all hoping for. While you're doing that, I might just go to a couple of the questions if that gives you a bit of time. Yeah. Yeah,
that'd be great.
So Rachel asked a question about whether the land was given for free by the council. So the agreement with the council is that kind of social value is almost calculated in. So it's an allowance that's calculated by the disposal proceeds, so how much is made from the sale and kind of retained asset, and how much the development costs and how much social value it develops. So I think we're looking at it's probably going to equate out to be about that we'll pay £1 for the site, but it on the basis that it's delivering a huge amount of social value through the delivery of 50 affordable homes. Ian has asked a couple of questions. How long does each project take? How long's a piece of string? It really depends. I mean, inception can begin anywhere. It could be, Shaldon Road, I think, came to us in 2013, and we're probably going to be completing, dare I say, early 2022. So that's 9 years. That's a really long time. The Fish Ponds Road scheme was 2011, and we finished that in 2016. So it's a long process, and development often is, and it can sometimes be a little bit longer in community-led housing. Another question from Ian, happy to answer that one as well, which is how do you select the people who live in the houses? Very similar for both projects that the CLT have delivered. So we are recipient of government funding through the Homes and Communities Agency, or now Homes England, and subject to the conditions of that. So we're offering affordable rent, and we have to go through the Home Choice Register. So any rental properties, everybody has to be registered through the Home Choice Register to be viable to apply. And with the shared ownership, there's a national database of people who want to buy shared ownership property. It's called Help to Buy. And again, people have to be registered through that and have to apply through that. Now, what we're able to do is we have our membership of BCLT members, and we're allowed to let those guys know when these properties are coming up. So there's kind of a way of being able to share that information with them. For the allocations, we've worked very long and tirelessly with our partners at Brighter Places and with Bristol City Council to develop an allocations policy which met the needs of our members and also of the Home Choice register. And it can kind of slightly differ project to project based on the needs of the community it's serving. The next few questions.
While you're doing the questions, I can't get my phone to work, so I'm going to take
Okay.
the laptop with me.
Fine, you'll be fine. I'll hand over back to you, Jags, and we'll come back to the other questions shortly.
Okay, right. Okay, so this is our office. I'm just going to show you a couple of boards. We've got a big whiteboard there that shows too much reflection on there. That shows where we are on different bits of work, so residents can come and quickly see which areas still need a bit of input. And we've got our health and safety first aid arena there. We've got a defib unit and lots of first aid kits. We've got our tool store area, so the residents and the old shower unit. The residents wanted to see that, see how it fitted, and then I'll take you out into our small little courtyard area which is our current. It's a bit hard from the phone. Can you see that? Okay, that's so this will in due course become their little community courtyard area, and we've got in here the resident space, which is their little canteen area, and they've got some lockers. So you can store their PPE. They don't need to bring their PPE home. They can just leave it here, their work boots and their high vis and things. So from around the site, we are now, as I said, in the centre of the site, and this is our first phase that we've been working on. So we've got that's plot 1 at the top there, the green one, coming around, sweeping down, and then we've got a little bend on the site, and then we've got the small short road between the phase 1 and phase 3. So we don't have that project there on the left down there. And if we go over and see if we can find anyone in our working in section. So see, I think there might be a few people working in plot 2. So,
Hi.
we found a self-finisher. Here we go. Look, oh, there's another one. There's more.
There's 3.
3. Right. So we got Karen, Leober, and Faith here. And
Hi.
this is, I don't know how many people are on here. 43 or so people. So what have you guys been doing today?
Painting doors, eh?
And skirting boards.
Yeah.
And skirting boards. Okay. And how's it going?
It's all good. It's going.
Yeah, it's going.
It's
Hard
going.
work.
Hard work. Yeah. Coming
Kind of-
up with different solutions,
Yeah.
making things work.
Resolving complexities.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to squeeze past you and have a look at this picture
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
So we've got a kitchen that's been mainly well, it looks like it's predominantly fitted. There's a few. Is there anything left on this kitchen? No, it looks like this Ray's waiting for his oven and hob to go in. But that's a sort of a typical kitchen across the site. We've got lots of these L-shaped kitchens that residents need to fit, and then it's all been painted white at the moment. So the residents can paint it a colour later after they move in, but to start with, to get everything signed off, everything just gets painted white. You can see that the architraves have all been fitted. The stairs are being. There's a handrail that some of the residents are choosing to paint or not paint. So there's lots of small little choices. I'm not sure if actually there's no tiling been done on this one yet, so I'll go to another plot to see what we can find. Rhiannon, if there are any questions as we go, you might need to shout them out because I can't see as we're walking around. Let's go and have a look in prop 4. So we've got actually got a bit of skirting happening in this block, and this is actually slightly different. This kitchen, it's got a split in the worktop there, and this is let's have a look in, see what's going on upstairs. Found something else up here. So let's have a look in here. So this has had the tiling done in this very white. This one, it's not a great one to show. It's hard to see a white tiled bathroom, isn't it? Oh, we've found Steve. Hey, Steve.
Hello. Who's this?
There's a whole bunch of people on there.
So Michelle, I'm just emailing you now, which is a bit weird.
That's good. So, what's it like? What are you up to? Are you finishing?
I'm finishing that, and then I'm going to finish the skirting in the boxing in the bath panel, skirting, boxing in, and skirting in.
Okay.
10 minutes, and I'll be done.
Great. Good work, Steve. Actually, do you want to show the back of your high vis? So this is the amazing, one of the residents designed the high vis logo and for the project. So that was Carl that did that. Thanks, Steve. See you later. Is there anything particular people want to see as we turn the... Did someone say something?
I haven't got any requests to see anything in particular, Jackson.
Okay.
I've had a question about what measurements are you making of the real world thermal performance of the houses? I can't answer that.
Well, we won't be doing that as the self-finish program. That'll be between the main contractor and the client. So the walls are made of porotherm. Look in here, there's a slightly different color on these towers. Not much. You can see the work they've done in nice detailing to the taps. The porotherm block walls, and so the actual performance of the fabric performance should be pretty good. I think that they are either passive house or virtually passive house. I'm not sure if they've been signed off as passive house, but they're triple glazed timber windows, so they should be pretty good. This is a slightly different design. This is a corner plot, so it's actually got quite a large kitchen living area here. Again, this one is still in progress. You can see actually the skirting ready to be really worked on. And this one, actually, I'll show you. Show you the MVHR in the system. So we've got each of the houses have got an air source, actually a ground source heat pump that you can see down here, a Kenza shoebox. So each house has got a ground source heat pump, and they've also got an MVHR, mechanical ventilation heat recovery unit. So they're all there to help to reduce the energy loss of the homes, and there's no gas on site. It's all electrically heated, but through the ground source heat pump. So we've got, this next phase is almost ready to be handed over. I think we might be getting this phase next week. There's Pete and Scott are actually doing the snagging at the moment, just to make sure everything is done and ready for it to be handed over to the residents. And there are a few things that get thrown up that need repairing before we come in, or they're things that actually could be done later while we've got the props. I don't actually know where Pete or Scott, which house they're actually in at the moment for snagging. I was going to see if Pete wanted to say something. And then actually down here, we won't go down there, we'll just come around here slightly. You can see the next phase of the project are still in, much more in the building stage. So you can see that's that's not going to be ready for a while yet. And then this is the fourth phase, which they're just getting the groundworks done, ready for us to be able to come in. So that's probably about a month away, I imagine, for that one. And I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 homes there. So they've got a few different communal green areas, which probably easier to see from the plans. We can't quite see them now because it's in past that digger, but there's a communal green area between those two phases. And then maybe we walk around up here, we can see a little bit more. How are we doing for time? It's actually just gone 1:45, so then I'll come back to the office, and if you've got any particular pertinent questions, we can run over those.
Thanks, Jackson. It looks amazing. I'm sure everybody would agree with me that's watching in, and we've had a few thumbs up and smiley faces and things coming through. Oh, look, there's Margarita and the guys. One question: what are the key roles and responsibilities in terms of overseeing and managing the self-finished work?
So we've got a few responsibilities. One is to ensure that the self-finished works get completed within the time frame. So Brighter Places is able to get the homes passed, well, get the homes completed, so the residents can actually move in at the scheduled time that's been stated. So that's one of our responsibilities. The other one is to ensure that the residents are working safely, and to make sure that they're using the tools correctly, and they're working safely for themselves and for other people. They're the sort of two key areas for us.
Great.
And the other is probably it is a critical area, but it's not really sort of stated, is to obviously keep the residents enjoying their time, because that's as much as that they're going to get the benefit of the sweat equity of their work, is actually about them getting to spend time with each other before they move in.
The other thing to remember as well is that most of the people are also working as well as doing the self-finish, so they've got to carry on with their their day-to-day lives as well as working the self-finish in around that, moving that in.
Yeah.
Everybody loves your software. Questions about the software, guys? It's very snazzy. And how do you get it, and do you sell it?
We sell it. So we've spent time making it. Well, I don't know, Michelle, do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I was actually just going to pick up, that's a good point, Rhiannon. People are also just raising families, and then, there's the, just day-to-day life and illness and everything. And so everything's been really included in this project, and getting to know the resident group as a community already, which is one of the very cool things I feel about the self-finish model, is it brings together these future residents, and they're already forming a community with these strong bonds and the reality of working together in life, real life. I also just wanted to add in, just to that question about roles and responsibilities, it does take specific roles we've seen, and we learn as we go. This is the largest project of this nature to date in the UK that I'm aware of. And so, but we need a strong project management to liaise with the partners, with the development team, the employer's agent who's working closely with the main contractor. So it does take this, organization, and then also the hands-on training and guidance, and ensuring that each of the residents have made it through successfully, and all the self-finishers participating, the health and safety training, so that it's just, there's a lot of tracking. And then, like Jackson said, that support and encouragement throughout, and the confidence to know, what to do, and, how to just direct the energy of the group. And then there's stepping forward of the residents and self-finishers themselves. So creating, a coordination group. So more and more through the process, we see the residents and self-finishers stepping up increasingly to help further, co-design basically the self-finish program, and how they take on the management of it more and more through the process, which is also very cool. And one of the things that is really one of the primary motivations is this empowerment and bringing together of community, like really live on the ground. In terms of, what was the last question about? Was it the time tracker?
Yeah. About the software.
So the time tracker, one of the other key things that's required, which calculating the sweat equity, the allocations, and I saw there was a question about that. And so basically, the way that it works is taking, a proportion, some of the costs, which would otherwise have been works carried out by the main contractor, and basically redirecting the cost for both the labor and the materials, into the hands of the self-finishers. So then that value, whatever it is that's been agreed, is now available for the self-finishers, and they earn it in the form of sweat equity. And so this time tracker came out of the experience from previous projects that we've done as Ecomotive, and getting to know the ins and outs and nuances of what's involved and what's really important to track and valuable. So tracking both the progress on the different work activities, works in the different plots or sites, and then the number of hours accrued by individuals, and individuals then coming together as a household to accrue equity. And so in that way, actually the time tracker app makes that very easy. Whereas in the first project, we were kind of, that it all came out of the learning out of the first project, where we had loads and loads of handwritten spreadsheets that had to be transcribed. So, finding the solutions that just upgrade and make it much easier. And we do have this now as a tool which can be shared on. So you're welcome to be in touch if that's of interest for any other projects or volunteer projects and things like that. It can be easily adapted. So you can always write to us at info@ecomotive.org if you're interested. I just noted here, there was also the question about number of days of training. There, as Jackson mentioned, there's been offsite and onsite training. I think I would guess, and this was just looking very briefly right now at some spreadsheets I have, probably approximately 40 days of training in total so far. And there's always the openness and engagement with the residents and self-finishers. If there's something more needed, they let us know, and we can always, see what we can do to make it available, particularly where there's a group who's wishing for more training in a specific activity of those we've had, this is something that would be cool to see more and more in the future. But, as this project is kind of quite pioneering in nature and scale, so looking for main contractors who are interested to work with this model, I think hopefully we'll see that increasingly. But we did get a few days as part of the, the arrangement with the main contractor of training in the carpentry area. And then the rest of it has been provided in-house through Ecomotive, or where we've brought on board other skilled laborers who have expertise, for example, in tiling or decorating. And
bring another question in. Sorry,
we can see if there's any 5
minutes left and 14 unanswered questions. We might need to race through some of these. So one question from Patsy is, what are the estimated savings of the programme, including the kind of costs of the Ecomotive supervision and training?
Yeah, I think we need to turn that question around. It's not about saving money. I think originally self-finished was considered as, oh, let's do self-finished because it will save some budget. It doesn't actually do that. What it does, it empowers the residents, and it gives them the ability to spend time with each other on the project before it starts, and to understand their homes. So the cost that it would have incurred to do the works by a main contractor end up going to the residents anyway in forms of sweat equity.
Thanks, Jackson. There are a couple of questions about how the direct neighbours are chosen and the relationship. I think Michelle's kind of covered some of the relationships and that building, and that kind of how happens through self-finish, really. And in terms of how the direct neighbours are chosen, I was quite heavily involved with that. And the scheme was designed so that there were, all of the shared ownership and affordable rental homes were interspersed with one another. There wasn't kind of a rental corner and a shared ownership corner. They're all interspersed with one another, and also so are the sizes of the homes, sort of fairly mixed as much as possible within the design. Within the design capabilities. But everybody applied for their own plot, so people were matched with a certain size home dependent on their housing need, and they were then able to apply for whichever 2-bed flat they wanted, or whichever 3-bed house they wanted. And we went through a kind of application process, and everybody got option 1, option 2, option 3. And it was all kind of done as a blind picking from a hat, essentially, within the remit of that. But pretty much everybody got either their first or second choice. It all with this process, we found that it all has kind of worked out really nicely and unexpectedly. I thought it was going to be a real headache, and actually it worked out really beautifully. Everybody seemed to get a good match. So there's that one. Right. There's a few questions about ground source heat pumps. Why ground source heat pumps rather than air source? And are the ground source heat pumps expensive to install?
I don't think we can answer that in this session. It's probably right into Brighter Places, because they're the main client.
That's cool. I thought it might be a Pete. That's why Pete's gone and hidden, isn't he? He didn't want to answer any questions.
He was here. Just on that tenure thing, while you're looking at the next question, like lots of projects, on big projects, they try to do this tenure blind thing where you don't know who's renting and who's owning. But on this site, it all gets broken down anyway, because everyone gets to know each other and they're all working beside each other. You end up knowing who you like and who you don't like anyway. So before you start, so.
Has the affordability been secured by way of a Section 106 agreement? Yes, there was a Section 106 agreement as part of that will have to be demonstrated through Section 106. Is there any CIL contribution from the development? So that's the Community Infrastructure Levy contribution. There was an aspect of that work. I was going to kind of defer to Pete maybe for that. They did some work on the kind of top road at the site and built in some parking bays on Morris Road. I'm sure there was a bit more, and I can't think off the top of my head what it was, because that was all agreed such a long time ago. Peter would know, but we can come back in Ask Brighter Places for the detail of that if we need. Question about social impact and a study that you're undertaking about the social impact of self-finish process. Can you tell us a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes?
One thing we're aware is there's been much more research to date on the impact of community-led housing. And as we've spoken, this model is quite landmark with such a large-scale self-finish, and same with if it were self-build. So we've developed, along with UE, a survey to assess what is the real life impact. And so at different points along this, the process of self-finish and then upon completion, that we hope can be, useful, both to inform our program, but also more widely, which is a question further down, how we can share this knowledge that we're gaining through the projects like this, pass it on. And if there's other ideas about how to do that, we would love to hear, but really excited about sharing the outcomes of this project through that. And, looking at the value, the social value of things like increased employability for residents, how many of them go on to even work, continue in the trades and skills that were gained, getting certificates, increased safety within the neighborhood, through knowing each other, pride of place, people really looking after their homes, and so and then just the general benefit of community. And like Jackson said, it's not necessarily everyone really likes each other all the time. That's not the way it is in families or in community, but you learn to work together. And we see that very clearly demonstrated, already in the resident groups and the empowerment of them coming together to form a residents association that's now incorporated. So all these steps underway that are merely supported through working together as part of this model. So, yeah.
I'm going to go from the top. So very quickly, Zikon, this has absolutely be possible on land which isn't acquired from the council. There are loads of different ways of acquiring land, some easier than others, but there are community-led housing schemes up and down the country and within the West of England region that are using farmland, duchy land. There's a piece of work on church land. There's a lot of ways of acquiring land, and CLH West, Community-Led Homes West, can kind of help to guide you on that as part of our technical service and advice. Future plans and plots and sites. Bristol City Council have done an innovative community-led housing land disposal. First wave of that has been matched with the preferred bidders, and they're working through that process at the moment. And there are more sites that have been identified that they are working on feasibility on at the moment and due to come out early next year is the rumour on that. So in Bristol, there are plans for more of that, smaller scale than 50 homes though. Is there a chance to visit the site? I don't know. I feel that's probably quite tricky at the moment based on the fact that Susan has been, with all of the work going on, it's a bit hard to arrange a site visit. But Jackson, I don't know what your
I think once we've got the first phase moved in, I think that will open it up for being a bit more public access.
Are you guys okay to stay on for 5 minutes while we try and answer all the questions? Is everybody good with that?
Yeah,
Great.
I'm fine with that.
Fabulous.
If anyone needs to go, thanks for coming.
Yeah, definitely. And we're recording it, and this will go out through all of our channels as well. So if you need to drop off, we'll continue to answer the questions. So there's a technical question. Is the site a home zone with limited traffic movements, and will the highway or road be adopted? I don't know the answer to that.
That's definitely one for Brighter Places, I'd say.
We will have to come back to that one. Sorry, Dave, we couldn't answer that. So, is there a community space or shared workspaces? It was in the plan, but it's not currently being built out. So Jackson, you're sort of there. You talked a bit about that earlier, didn't you? The kind of communal space and...
Yeah, the communal slab in the middle of the site, the residents can choose what they want to do with it in a way. So I think there's been support by Bristol Community Land Trust to enable discussions around what that can be used for. So there's been some designs for that, and designs for a large sort of common house sort of area that would be really lovely. Now the residents need to find a way to try and fund that to make that work. And in the meantime, they'll probably end up with these beautiful cabins until that. So hopefully they can work out a way once their minds have shifted from tiling to working out the communal space.
Yeah.
Then
Sorry, my dog's decided to start barking. Duncan, yes, Bristol City Council is a bit of a leader in this area, community-led housing, certainly. Are the learnings being shared with other local authorities? Yes, they are. So as Community-Led Homes West, we are guided by a stakeholder group. We have representation from all of the 4 local authorities, Bath and North East Somerset, South Gloucester, North Somerset and Bristol City Council. So we're sharing that learning all of the time. North Somerset have just kicked off with a community-led housing land disposal. So they're exploring that there. So not far from Bristol, just down the road, they're exploring that in a more rural setting, but probably looking at their towns more. As Community Homes West, Suze, you might want to add a little bit more on.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely people power. So, get yourselves together. If you want to start a project, if it's something that you're really interested in, it all starts from that. And it has to be kind of a pronged attack, I suppose, on, the community gathering together to build a scheme and collaborating with partners who are in the sector and speaking to your local authority. And finding those bits of land, and also, looking at the land disposal and what's available. So I'd say get involved, get your voice seen, gather your fellow members in the community, and start talking to people.
Got 3 more questions left. So Becca's asked, roughly what value of sweat equity are the residents receiving per home? I know the answer for fish ponds. I'm not sure if it's kind of akin to that for Shaldon, Jax.
It is very similar. So it's equivalent to about £5,000, depending on how much time they put in. So once they've done all their time, so there's about £250,000 across the 50 homes. And once they've all put their time in, the track will help to, the time will be divided out on a ratio basis, depending on how much everyone's put in. So if everyone works really efficiently, then effectively their rate per hour goes up. If they work very inefficiently, their rate per hour drops. So if they all do the same amount of time, it's about £5,000.
Wonderful.
And it can be of interest, and then it will be allocated through rent reduction for the affordable rentals or for increased equity value for the shared ownership.
Cool. So Joe Kelly has asked, do you think this model could be applied to the energy saving retrofit of existing homes?
I think so.
That's a good question. And we've actually started having that discussion recently. I think the skilling up of people is a really good way of empowering communities. So I think that bit could certainly be done. It's the difficulty of then what happens if you go into a house, number 29 Rosebery Avenue somewhere, who's monitoring and supporting on the health and safety side of things. So it's I think it'd be great if that could be developed.
Cool.
I think Yeah, and
Sorry,
just the
Michelle,
other thing
go for
that's
it.
very cool about this project is the tool library sharing resources, which I think also would be easily translatable for that skills and resources.
Final question from Mark is, what lessons were learned from the previous build that stand out? You touched on this earlier. What were your key learning? Don't use bits of paper to write your timesheets on.
That was a really big one, wasn't it? Yeah. So everyone was tracking their time just on their on like their sign-in sheets, and oh my God, the amount of time we spent trawling through all of those to try and capture everyone's time. So that's why the tracker was developed. What other lessons from that? I think there was certainly there's really positive lessons, like even though how difficult it is during the actual program, there's this incredible uplift at the end when people get that sense of achievement. So even when it seems really hard. Hi Tracy.
Hello.
You can say hello to everyone. Everyone, there's the whole world's out there.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Tracy. Yeah, so just while it's hard during the project, that the having your eyes on the goal is a critical part, and just supporting residents when they're getting the wobbles around how much time they've got to put in, and balancing their work and their life and everything else on top of all the resident, on top of the sweat equity was a key one.
Thank you, Jackson. I realised that I think I might have put you on a spotlight, so I don't know if anyone's been able to see anybody else through a bit of that after you did your wonderful tour. So they might have just been seeing you, which is fine, because it's very exciting things going on there. Your background's way more exciting than our backgrounds. Any more questions in the chat? So I haven't been looking at the chat. There we go.
Yeah, it
a
looks
bit more.
good, Rhiannon. Yeah, and just thank you for hosting so wonderfully, and thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, so Susan's put some tabs in there. Contact us at Ecomotive Community at Homes West if you want any more information. Any unanswered questions we'll try and get out there in the ether. We'll have all of your email addresses from registering so we can share it widely, and this video will get uploaded to our socials, to our YouTube channels and whatnot. Thank you so much for joining us. What a session, Jackson and Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
A big thanks to Bright Places for helping to keep the vision of the CLT going for this project. So,
100%. Yeah. Thanks all.
Thanks
Take care for now.
everybody.
Bye.